It's great when it works. So good morning and welcome to First Unitarian Society. My name is Nancy Vetterschultz and my pronouns are she and her. I'm a member of this congregation and I help out by being a worship associate so that I'm in the pulpit with people like Kelly AJ today, sometimes with Kelly Crocker. And today I'm joined by not only Kelly Asprooth-Jackson, but by the worship team of Linda Warren, Drew Collins, and Daniel Carnes. We also want to thanks to those who are providing worship hospitality this morning, and that includes Ann Smiley and Alice Delaquest, who were greeters, Alyssa Ryanjoy and Gail Bliss, who were ushering and continue to usher, Jean Hills and Jim Wilson, who are making and serving coffee, and Samuel First, who is a volunteer sound technician. And we want to also thank the members of the Society Choir today for contributing to their contribution to the worship. For those connecting with us virtually, we are glad that you're with us, and we're also glad to have all of you wonderful people out here in the audience, and we're hoping that you will stay for the coffee hour afterwards. If you need more information, there is a welcome table in the Commons, and you can ask people there. So if this is your first time, oh my gosh, if you're visitors, we really are happy to see you here as well. The weekend of November 1st and 2nd will be our annual honoring of All Souls, and that's next weekend. During services that weekend, we'll honor all the FUS members who died in the past year. So if you have loved ones who have passed this year that you would like to remember during our service, please email Reverend Kelly C. with their name. Today is also our open forum. So this is where we have open questions that we spend time talking with each other about. And it will happen at after the 11 o'clock service, so we hope that you will stay for that as well, or come back in the case of people who don't have kids or other things to do from 10 to 11. All FUS members are encouraged to attend to provide their perspective in response to this year's open questions. The meeting will be here in the atrium, and a Zoom link for virtual participation may be found on the front page of the FUS website. And then many, many thanks for those of you who came yesterday to the Autumn Fest. It was a wonderful celebration despite the rain. And we want to give an even bigger thank you to the staff and volunteers who made it possible, because it was a very big event. The remaining unclaimed items from the silent auction are available for pickup after this service in the loggia hallway and on the landmark side of the building. There are also second chance items still available in the Commons, and one of them is I'm making pendants from beautiful Lake Mendota rocks. So if you have a connection to the Lake Mendota watershed, please sign up. I will make you a pendant, and you will then have a rock connection to that watershed. And now I invite you to join me in a moment of silence, so that we can center ourselves and bring ourselves more fully into this time as we join together once again in community.
Come now, all who are broken and cracked. Come to the place where your shattered pieces are the raw materials of mosaic and kintsugi. Here you will find welcome, among the armless dolls and cozy pilled sweaters, loved exactly as they are. Come now, all who are thirsty and burned, come to the place where cool waters and aloe
soothe your bedraggled soul. Drink your fill, salve your skin. Then fill your canteen and return once more to the struggle, knowing the well will remain unobstructed.
Come now, all who long for the stars. Come to the place where that vision of infinity is written upon the people's hearts. Hold it until you've memorized the way. Set your compass to point towards hope. And begin your journey home. And now, friends, I invite you to rise in all the ways that we do, and join me in the words of aspiration for the kindling of our chalice flame. This chalice once lit is a declaration that every person is inherently worthy and has the right to flourish with dignity, love, and compassion. By our time, wisdom, attention, and money, may we make this community fully accessible and inclusive, a place where such flourishing may be fully realized. And now I invite you to reach out to those around you and greet each other with signs of love and peace.
I hope it's no, don't worry about it. But I thought it would be nice to join you too. But that was insane.
Good morning. Let's remain standing so we can sing our opening hymn together, number 1014, Answering the Call of Love. If you're looking in a teal hymnal, number 1014, the words might be different, standing on the side of love, but the songwriter changed them and asks us all to change them too. Answering the Call of Love. The promise of the Spirit, faith, hope, and love abide, and so every soul is blessed and made whole. The truth in our hearts is our guide. We are answering the call of love. Hands joined together.
is when I call forward anybody who wants to come up and join me for a story today. Come on down. Thank you for joining me, Thea. It's nice to see you. Oh, okay. Everybody, you're all welcome. Hello. Good morning. So now is the season for making jack-o'-lanterns, right? Has anybody made a jack-o'-lantern yet this year? Okay. Okay, so we have the pumpkin, but we're holding off on the making of the jack-o'-lantern so it survives through to Halloween. It's wise. I see the wisdom. Sometimes, yeah. But many of us have earnest plans to make a jack-o'-lantern. We have many pumpkins, some of them carved, some of them not. I know some of you who were here for Autumn Fest yesterday did some pumpkin decorating. I don't think we did any carving. So again, there are many different approaches to this, but we're familiar with the idea of the jack-o'-lantern, right? A few days before Halloween, yes. Two or three. So I have a story for you today about where the jack-o'-lantern tradition comes from. And before I tell you this story, I have a question to begin it with. And that question is, what happens to us after we die? Anybody know? We decompose. That's one answer, yes. You die, yeah, yep. We get buried, sure, yes. We stay in one place for eternity, yes. And we decorate. Why not? The fact of the matter is that there are many different ideas about what happens to us after we die, and it is okay if you are very confident in your answer. You're allowed to be confident in your answer. Just know that there are many different people with different answers, right? And one of the popular answers doesn't mean that it's right, because nobody knows for sure, but one of the popular answers is that there are two different places that we go after we die. There is a good place and there is a bad place. Again, I am not endorsing this belief. I'm just saying it's a popular idea. And it comes up in this story, which is why I wanted to front load that information if you didn't have it already. So this is a story from Ireland. And in this story from Ireland, there is a man named Jack. And Jack is very clever. He is very good at working out creative solutions to various problems. Unfortunately, the main problem that Jack keeps trying to solve is how he can get your money into his pocket. So he is constantly tricking people out of their money or into getting them to do things that they wouldn't have done otherwise to benefit him, to no benefit of their own. So a lot of those tricks end up coming down to, if you pay me now, I will do this thing for you. I will gather you firewood. I will paint your chicken coop, etc., etc. So you pay Jack the money, and then he doesn't do the thing. So at the end of the transaction, he has money and you don't have anything. Or the reverse, where he says, if you do something for me, gather some firewood, paint this chicken coop, I will pay you afterwards. And then you do that thing, but he doesn't pay you for it. So you've done him a favor, but to no benefit of yours. This happened so many times that Jack got a real reputation for this. Word got around, you can't trust Jack, he's going to try and trick you. So that no one really wanted him around. No one wanted to live near him. No one wanted him to live in their town. He basically wasn't welcome anywhere. And it got so bad, so the story goes, that when Jack died, he tried to go to heaven. And God said, oh no, you're not getting in here, Jack. I don't want you to steal my money. So he went to the other place, and the devil said, oh no, you're not tricking me. So he wasn't welcome there anyways. So he ended up wandering the earth. And while he was wandering the earth looking for a place where he could be, he made a lantern for himself. And he made this lantern by carving it out of a... That's a great answer. But in the original story, you know what it was? It was a turnip. Have you ever had a turnip before? Some of us have, some of us haven't. You're allowed to have your own opinion about a turnip.
That I've never.
You've seen it, but you haven't eaten it. Yeah, here's my observation. I think it would be a lot harder to carve a jack-o'-lantern out of a turnip than out of a pumpkin.
Yes.
I think that seems harder to me.
How did it get to a pumpkin?
Well, so eventually, my shorthand answer is that when this story first was conceived, there weren't any pumpkins in Ireland.
People used to carve with potatoes and
So it started out with turnips, and then eventually they moved to the pumpkin, and I think it's because it's just better for this project. It works better for the art project.
watermelon.
Oh,
It's still a fruit.
a watermelon, that's an interesting idea. See,
A pumpkin is a fruit.
the season of the watermelon is a little bit earlier in the year is the problem. And maybe it's also that the eating of watermelon is more popular than the eating of pumpkin. I don't know if that's a factor or not. But anyway, originally it's a turnip. He wandered the earth with this lantern made out of a turnip. And that is where this tradition comes from. People carving originally turnips and then now pumpkins to have a sort of a face or some other image on it and to put a light inside of the pumpkin to create sort of a lantern that they display somewhere in their window or outside, generally around their house. You can see it from the street. Now, there are two different explanations for why people do this in relationship to the story of Stingy Jack. One of them is that it is there to tell Jack to stay away, right? It's there to note, look, the people in this house are wise to you. Don't try to come here. There's a different explanation, though. And the different explanation is that it's there to help light Jack's way. He is looking for a place to be. And we hope that one day he will find a place where he actually is welcome. And so the lantern is there to help him see his route along his wandering path until he arrives to a place where even he belongs. These are two different explanations for the same thing. Sometimes you can do the same or at least a very similar thing for a really good reason or a really bad reason. Have you ever woken up in the morning and said to one of your parents, "Good morning"? Now, you could say it like this, "Good morning." Or you could say it like this, "Good morning." That's really different, right? But it's the same action. It just feels really different. So it matters what we do. I'm not telling you it doesn't matter what we do, but it also matters why we do it. But then you don't say good morning. Yeah, it's a nice thing to say good. It's worth saying good morning. I agree. So thank you for listening to my story. And now we are going to sing you to your classes.
And we can sing together hymn number 348 if you're looking in the gray hymnal, "Guide My Feet."
Guide my feet while I run this race.
Our inspirational reading today is by Lynn Ungar. The universe does not revolve around you. The stars and planets spinning through the ballroom of space dance with one another, quite outside your small life. You cannot hold gravity or the seasons. Even air and water inevitably evade your grasp. Why not then let go? You could move through time like a shark through water, neither restless nor ceasing, absorbed in and absorbing the native element. Why pretend you could do otherwise? The world comes in at every pore, mixes in your blood before breath releases you into the world again. Did you think the fragile boundary of your skin could build a wall? Listen, every molecule is humming its particular pitch. Of course, you are a symphony. Whose tune do you think the planets are singing as they dance?
Some of you have heard me speak before about the mythical town of Chelm, a city that exists in the folklore of the Ashkenazi Jews of Eastern Europe. In the village of Chelm, said to be situated somewhere in what is today Poland or Ukraine, everyone is a fool, and their stories impart wisdom by counter-example. Sort of like that comic strip from the children's magazine Highlights, Goofus and Gallant, except all goofuses. In one of these stories, Yankel, the town of Chelm's Hebrew teacher, and his wife Reshka were trying to save money for a special occasion. Specifically, they were saving for Hamantaschen, the special cookies for the holiday of Purim, which was, at that point in the story, many months away, just as it is also many months away from now in reality. The two were very poor, but they decided that if they put aside just a little bit of money each week, then they would have enough. They found an old trunk with wheels on the bottom, and they agreed that they would each put one coin into it every Friday. And that is exactly what they did for the first week. But when the second Friday came around, Yankel thought to himself, I have just this one coin left in my pocket. Why should I put it into the trunk? Let Reshka put in hers this week. That will be enough. But Reshka, at the same time, was thinking much the same thing about Yankel. And so that week, neither of them put anything into the trunk, each thinking that the other had made their contribution. This went on for several months, until the day that Reshka and Yankel had agreed to open the trunk. Together, they threw back the lid, expecting to find a pile of coins inside. Instead, there were just those first lonely two. Reshka looked at Yankel. Yankel looked at Reshka. Each knew that the other had cheated, and their anger had to burn twice as bright in order to cover their shame. They began to argue, and then to shout, and then Reshka grabbed hold of Yankel's beard, and Yankel took hold of Reshka's wig. They pulled and they struggled back and forth for a moment before toppling over together and right into the trunk. The lid snapped shut. With the two still wrestling inside, the trunk began to roll. It had wheels, remember? As their struggling jolted it across the room. Trapped together, they slid out the door, which was too simple and meager to have a threshold or any sort of step between the floor and the street. The trunk rolled out into the road, and this is where it really began to pick up steam, because Yankel and Reshka lived near the top of a tall hill. Down, down it rolled, careening towards the center of town until the road flattened out and the trunk came to a stop right in front of the synagogue. The street was crowded with people who saw the trunk lurching back and forth with terrible noises coming from inside of it and knew at once it must be haunted. When one brave soul finally ventured to open the lid, the townsfolk found Reshka and Yankel inside, still quarreling with each other and arguing about the money that they had not saved. Embarrassed by the incident and determined that nothing like it should ever happen again, the wise men of Chelm enacted 3 new laws. That no teacher of Hebrew should ever again be allowed to live on the same street as the synagogue. That all doors in the town henceforth should have thresholds. And that from that day, no trunk in Chelm should be permitted to have wheels. We tell the stories of fools in order to notice our own foolishness, as many wise storytellers have shown throughout the centuries, from Groucho Marx to Jesus of Nazareth. It might be that you can see something of yourself in Reshka and Yankel, unless you are that rare soul who has never once thought to shirk your own obligations while expecting others to pick up your slack. But for today, I want to focus on the lesson that I find in the elders of Chelm and in their farcical and incredibly indirect attempt to solve a problem. A manufacturing requirement, a building code, and a zoning ordinance, instead of a hard conversation about what residents of Chelm owe to each other as neighbors, or what husbands and wives owe to each other as spouses. Or even just about poverty, which seems to me to be the root cause of all of the trouble in this story to begin with, as it is in so many of our world's stories. But this circuitous, avoidant punchline from Chelm seems very human and understandable to me, because it sounds exactly like the way that we try to handle boundaries when we are uncomfortable with the idea of boundaries to begin with. Now, by boundaries here, I mean setting the limits and expectations that we hold in our relationships with others. What we will do, what we won't do, what sorts of treatment we will or will not accept. And subsequently, how we respond when those boundaries are transgressed. This applies to every mode of relationship between human beings: marriages and friendships, families and workplaces, neighborhoods, and even just people passing each other on the street. And it also applies to communities, every sort of which must consider what its standard for behavior is and how to respond if those standards are transgressed, just as every person who is part of any community must reflect on what they should expect from it and how they should respond if those expectations are not met. Now, in my experience, this is a tender subject. When I have preached on it in other contexts, I have found it to be a more controversial topic than possibly any other, outpacing politics, economics, genocide. Some folks feel attacked for the boundaries that I think they should have drawn, but didn't. Some seem to resent the topic because of boundaries that others took with them that they did not like. Which is why I wanted to start with that beautiful reading from Lynn Unger about the overwhelming awe of the universe and how we are constantly absorbed in and absorbing it. Her words again here. The world comes in at every pore, mixes in your blood before breath releases you into the world again. Did you think the fragile boundary of your skin could build a wall? We are fundamentally porous beings, both physically and socially. We are less distinct objects in space than we are events in time, more like a wave on the ocean than a rock on the shore. The event that is your body is constantly taking in new molecules and releasing old ones. The particles that make up your skin exchange virtual photons with the things that you touch throughout the course of your day. And socially, relationally, we are all intermingled with each other, engaged in a constant process of exchange and interchange. Our lives are formed out of our connections to each other. The more that we cut up the world into fragments and parcels, the less human we become. Our very beings require relationship in order to cultivate and express what it is to be alive. And at the same time, we need separation enough to develop our own difference, rather than have who we are dictated by someone else. This seeming contradiction applies at every level, in our closest relationships and in our most distant ones. In the space between siblings and cities, neighbors and nation states. Terms like stoicism and self-reliance, which I believe are much more often misused than accurately applied, but that is another matter for another day. These constitute a reigning ethos in our society, one where the self is a separate and distinct thing, and the fates and feelings of others have no direct bearing on any of the rest of us. At the extreme end of this mentality is the inevitable conclusion that all relationships between people are really just matters of power. Who can demand your action? Whose actions you can command yourself? The voices from a great many religions have been answering back against this ethos for a long, long time. Those voices, teaching selflessness, push in the opposite direction, towards their own absolute. Consider Paul's famous words that love bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. In my experience, this message rarely lands evenly in proportion to where it is most needed. The volume goes up, and the people who are already giving of themselves, already generous or conciliatory or even self-sacrificing, may give more. But those who are by nature withholding or closed off or self-interested tend to listen last. So, should I be preaching for stronger boundaries or for weaker ones? Emphasizing obligation or celebrating autonomy? Ultimately, the answer is that it depends on the audience. And in most groups of any size, there is probably some mixture between people as to which pole they need most to be nudged toward. Should be said here that for a lot of us, whether we are too giving or too miserly with ourselves is often informed by our gender, Because so much of this is actually about power, and power is unavoidably tied to gender in our society. In our society, men are largely trained for power. That does not mean that power automatically comes with being a man. And in fact, a lot of the pathologies that I find in modern masculinity stem from men's disappointment at not experiencing the power that they were trained to expect. At the same time, a large amount of our shared culture still socializes women to play a supporting role in the lives of others. Now, this does not dictate your experience as an individual. There are men who suffer from being too prone to self-sacrifice, and women who could stand to better appreciate and to nourish our fundamental interconnectedness. And of course, for those of us who are already accustomed to crossing or struggling against the gender binary in some way, all of this may well be old news to you. But the thing that I most want to share with you today is this one brief quotation from the therapist and author Prentice Hemphill. Her simple definition of a boundary feels to me like an elegant balance between acknowledging the depth to which all people are intertwined and the need to attend to the health of those connections. She writes, "Boundaries are the distance at which I can love you and me simultaneously." Compassion, loving kindness is our baseline obligation towards all other people. This teaching goes back deep into our universalist ancestry. Our tradition does not have the luxury of discarding people whom we find distasteful. Even those who do profoundly terrible and destructive things. Even if they do those things to us or to those we love most dearly. But that does not mean that we can have no standard of right or wrong, or of what we will tolerate or will not. It means the opposite, in fact. If we must cultivate compassion for all, we must certainly find it for ourselves. If we care about ourselves and our own well-being, we must have some sense of how much energy we can give, or how much of our own selves we can risk to maintain a given level of closeness with another person. You have likely heard the term compassion fatigue or empathy fatigue before. Likely you have experienced it, the feeling that you are worn out from caring, overwhelmed by the needs of others, whether they are strangers in another part of the world or your own lover, parent, child, sibling, friend. The physician and teacher Gabor Mate has this to say on that subject. He says, "There is no empathy fatigue. Empathy and compassion is the way we are meant to be. That's our nature. Why would we get tired of being our nature? We get tired not because we have too much empathy, but because we don't have enough for ourselves. So we keep giving and giving and giving." And the author and scholar of empathy, Brené Brown, adds, "The heart of compassion is really acceptance. The better we are at accepting ourselves and others, the more compassionate we become. And it's difficult to accept people when they are hurting us, or taking advantage of us, or walking all over us. Different distances, both physical and emotional, are appropriate for different relationships. finding the distance at which you can find some version of love, from profound joy and loyalty to the most passive expression of wishing them well, is all the work of boundaries. Appreciating our interconnectedness and the responsibility that it creates in us to attend to those connections. Here I find myself circling back to one small note in the story that I began with. The elders of Helm made 3 nearly irrelevant laws in response to the crisis between Reshka and Yankel. But one of these was to mandate a threshold for every door of every house in the village, so that henceforth rolling trunks would be less likely to careen out into the street and down hills. Now, a threshold is a lip or a step that one must cross in order to enter. Not a total barrier, but something that makes the act of crossing in or out more apparent, more conscious. This seems to me to be a fair enough metaphor for tending to our own personal boundaries. Still, that is very big work, and I always feel that I should offer at least one concrete bit of counsel in cases like this, if I can. It is said that the teacher Jesus said, "Love thy neighbor as thyself." Here he is quoting directly from the book of Leviticus, a reminder that there is much more to be found in that book than homophobic clobber passages and arcane formulas for a disestablished temple. All of humankind has always been neighbor to itself. We have only ever had this one world to share. But now, in our era, we are packed in more tightly and bound together more thoroughly than at any other previous time in history. Love is the standard. But for people on the other side of the world or folks just next door, beyond the boundaries of family or friendship or religious community, there must be some basic beginning point. That point, that most essential thing which we all owe to each other. Are you ready for it? It is, I believe, the truth. You might hate how much your sister drinks too much, how your coworker conducts himself at the office, how a stranger in the street treats their dog. But short of resorting to the law or some other authority, their choices are their choices, and they are not yours or mine. I have a duty to intervene for anyone in the most terrible of scenarios. I have a little bit more of a duty towards the people that I love most dearly, a little less towards the people that I know not at all. But truth is the universal obligation. It is the constant across all relationships. If your question is, what can I do? If that is what you are sitting and thinking right at this moment, you are focused on some relationship in your life where the boundary is a problem. What can I do? With regard to anyone else's problems or choices, my first response is, have you tried telling them the truth yet? Do they know how you feel? What you're thinking? Mark Twain's advice is right, I believe. He said, when in doubt, tell the truth. It will confound your enemies and astound your friends. This is not always the last step. It almost never is. But it is a place to begin. Now, in the story that I started out with, Yankel and Reshka got no particular help or comfort from the slate of new laws that were passed in the wake of their very public embarrassment. But there is a coda to that tale, that when their neighbors found out what they had been fighting about, they sent over a whole basket of cookies. The truth was, they lived among people who cared about them. And sometimes the truth is best expressed in actions rather than in words.
I have to get pants with pockets. That's the problem. And women's clothes usually don't have pockets. So I'll just hold on to it. So I invite you into this time of giving and receiving, where we give freely and generously to this offering which supports the work of our outreach offering recipient, who this week is the St. John's Lutheran Emergency Fund. This fund exists to assist people in need in Dane County with crucial basic expenses: food, transportation, the cost of medicine, and clothing and other basic needs of children. It's existed for several years until recently in collaboration with a separate agency's program, which has now shuttered. Throughout its existence, the Emergency Fund has depended upon the generosity and volunteer energy of people and congregations from across the Madison area. And today we are pleased to join them as one of their contributing organizations. All of the money that we collect today at our services, today and actually yesterday, this whole weekend, will be going directly to this fund. As social services continue to fray in the wake of the mass hardship that's caused by the government shutdown, we know that many of us are looking for concrete ways that we can lend a hand to the many folks around us who are in need. Here's one, so please give generously. There are multiple ways that you can share your gifts. Baskets are now being passed in the auditorium for cash or checks, and you can also donate directly from our website, fusmadison.org. You will see on the screen our text to give information. We thank you for your generosity and your faith in this life that we create together.
Each week we gather, bringing with us the joys and the losses of our days. We share these here knowing they are held in love, in care, and in support. We light a candle of sorrow for the death and gratitude for the life of Nancy Webster, who passed from life on October 3rd. We hold Nancy's family in our hearts as we remember her warm and welcoming smile, her loving and generous heart. Nancy was a person of small stature, if you knew her, but big, big caring. Brought a lot of goodness and joy into the world. A memorial service will be held for Nancy today at 3 p.m. at the Oakwood University Woods Chapel. And if you are coming to the Open Question Forum, several of us have to be there afterwards, so trust that the two things will not be in conflict. We'll make sure you get there on time. We light a candle for all those who feel isolated by grief, by chronic pain, by mental illness, and all others who are alone and lonely. To you we extend our compassionate hearts. We light a candle of ongoing lament for the violence which plagues our world. Fervently we yearn for peace here at home and around the globe. And we light one final candle for all that lives in our hearts, the joy and the celebration, the sorrows and the loss. May we know we are held in love. If you will join me now in a moment of prayer and meditation with these words from Michelle Collins. Spirit of community, we name the truth. There are people who make love feel impossible, who push every button we didn't know we had, who seem almost designed to test the very limits of our humanity. Our hearts contract around these relationships like fists, protecting old wounds that never quite healed. We itemize their faults, build cases for our justified anger, forget that they too were once children who needed tenderness. Grant us eyes to see past the armor to the wounds beneath. Help us recognize that cruelty is often just pain that has nowhere else to go, that the hardest people to love are frequently those who most desperately need it. This does not mean accepting harm or abandoning boundaries, but may we find the fierce grace to hold both protection and compassion, remembering that even the most difficult souls are traveling their own mysterious journey toward healing. When love feels impossible, help us choose dignity anyway. When understanding fails, let kindness remain. Amen.
Now I invite us all to once again rise in body and/or in spirit so we can sing together our closing hymn, number 159 in the gray hymnal, number 159, This Is My Song.
Lord.
May love permeate your every heartbeat. May faith guide your every step. May truth and compassion be your eternal traveling companions. May a deep, abiding spirit rest joyously in your every waking wish and your every resting dream. Blessed be. Go in peace, and please be at rest for the postlude.